Y'all know what to do when I say action, right? 3, 2, 1, action. I have never watched a video from this guy before, but man, this title and the sub... Okay, this guy's got 1 million subs. It seems to be fresh to 1 million too, so congrats to him. Dang. MAGA husband lunges to stop interview over wife's racist collapse. It seems like this YouTuber did a debate with this Republican woman who I guess eventually let the mask slip and her husband, like, lunges in to stop the debate. That's kind of crazy. Okay, let's see what this is all about. I've never watched one of this guy's videos before. Let's see what the deal is.
To be in your head.
Yeah, I think it's a bunch of leftist propaganda.
I don't have to explain to you the meaning and history of that word. I think you understand why people take issue with it.
That's what they call themselves?
You just exhibited the principle I'm talking about.
Hey, hey. Does that offend you?
I'm devastated.
All right, can we take a break?
I have something insane in store for you. But first, let me explain what you're about to watch, and then we'll dive into it. After witnessing the feedback to my conversation with right-wing influencers Isabella and Josiah Moody and feeling like I didn't address...
Holy shit, bro.
Back to my conversation with right-wing influencers.
You know how we talk about neckbeards and we make fun of people for having neckbeards? This is a neckbeard. Dude, if you can't grow anything past this point, just give up. Just shave it all. Just give up. If you can't grow anything past this point, just give it up. You're not Amish. You're not rocking it. You're neckbearding right now. Is that his girlfriend? Is this neckbeard? Okay. You know what? Sure.
Influencers Isabella and Josiah Moody and feeling like I didn't address all that needed to be. I decided that it couldn't be our last discussion.
I will say, the average, like, Republican dude is, like, raggedy as fuck. I'm not gonna lie. And, like, the women that, like, Republican women, if they're either dating, like, super square, clean-cut, like, robotic silicon doll mannequin-looking dude Republicans, or, like, the super raggedy, yeah, Zan, no offense, you are raggedy. I am not anywhere close to as raggedy as any of these dudes. Trust me. Or that dude, for that matter, that we were just looking at. I am nowhere near that raggedy. What are you talking about, bro? I'm wearing a button-up shirt. I have a haircut right now. The only thing raggedy about me is I need a shave. If I'd shaved, I would look clean as fuck right now. Don't deny it. I'd be mogging you right now.
So I reached out to them asking if they would sit down again, and this prompted an admittedly wild idea that has somehow come to fruition. More on that in a moment. As was abundantly clear throughout the first interview, we disagree on just about everything. And more than that, I frankly find much of what Isabella says and does on the internet to be disgusting and reprehensible, and maybe the feelings mutual. But as I've demonstrated since the beginning of my career, it's super important that we directly engage with even extremely dangerous ideologies, because how do we defeat harmful ideas if we don't confront them? And after...
I do think... My mind is so split on that point. I feel like it's the bell curve of IQ meme with that take. Like, those on the lowest end of the IQ bell curve, who have the lowest IQs, say, we need to have a dialogue with people with even the most radical and harmful ideas, or they'll go unchecked, and they'll be allowed to fester, and we need to have an open dialogue, yeah. And you know the types of people who say that, who are actually just low IQ dumb fucks. They're the ones who enable and act as useful idiots for the right. But then you got people in the middle who are like, no, you have to actually reduce these things, and you have to ban. And then you've got people, I feel, on the most high IQ end of that bell curve who are like, yeah, we can't rely on the law or TOS to uphold a standard that we agree with for what's allowed and what's not in regards to harmful speech. To an extent, we always need to be prepared to have a dialogue with these people and to debunk their misinformation, because at any time, even in the dank corners of the world or the internet, they could gather a following using their rhetoric. And so I feel like this guy is on that, like high IQ, highest IQ end of that bell curve, where he has the same opinion as the low IQ end, but it's for a different reason. You know what I mean? I assume you know the meme I'm talking about.
After Trump won, I told you that I'd be stepping it up and taking the fight directly to MAGA folks even more than before. And one of the aspects of that is attempting to expose their ideology to their faces. Clearly, staying in our bubbles and echo chambers doesn't work. But as I've had more debates, I've realized one-off conversations that happen and it's over and that's it never seem to move the needle. There's never enough time to really dismantle harmful ideas, which is why we're doing what we're doing here, which is launching a new show that will give us the necessary time called The Grudge. Once a week on Sunday, we'll...
That's crazy, dude. I'm not gonna lie, that is a really cool podcast concept, and I love their setup too. Like a crazy QAnon Republican versus a super reasonable, like liberal guy. That's crazy, and I love how he's got the blue lighting on his side and the red lighting on her side. Dude, this is actually this is fire. This is fire, dude. Holy shit.
We'll publish an episode on my channel where Isabella Moody and I, and sometimes her husband, get into it. It's likely not going to be pleasant, but we're going to cover stories from our two perspectives and argue about it. This will provide...
I need to hear her defend what Nick Fuentes said. I need it.
Provide the person and the time for me to comprehensively demonstrate what is so wrong with the Moody's and thus far-right extreme MAGA's ideology. And I guess you'll try to do that to mine.
Listen, guys, I could fix her. Yeah, I'm just saying.
But we'll see. I understand some of you won't like this. Some people believe even talking with such characters is harmful. I disagree. I think it's not about whether or not you're platforming or talking with them, but instead how you're doing it. Is it in a responsible way? But I do hear you.
I actually mean that in the most literal way. I feel like you gotta know how to deal with people, and I feel like I can already tell that, like, you just gotta, like, bully. You just gotta bully, dude. Like, that's truly what it is. I mean that fully unironically. You gotta bully with someone like this. I can tell that she is the type of person who, trying to nicely explain a topic to you, it'll just fly over her head. But if you just, like, degrade her constantly for how wrong she is, I feel like that'll somehow get through to her and will actually make her change her mind. I feel like she's that kind of person who that's how you have to change their mind. Like, different people, you have to take different persuasive methods with. And sometimes the, like, path of least resistance to persuasion isn't with honey. It's actually with, like, lava.
The good thing is that nothing's changing about my normal daily show. So if you just want to hear from me and don't want arguments between Isabella and myself, the good thing is you have tons of content of that every single week. But I would be grateful if you could provide the space and chance for us to give it a try. And last thing before jumping into the first episode, I have no idea how this is going to go, so I can't tell you how many episodes we'll have or exactly how it's all going to play out. We may find out very quickly there's not much valuable about this and call it quits, or the Moody's might realize they don't like being attacked by me every week and call it quits. We're just going to have to see. But until then, look out for the episodes on this channel on Sundays. And without further ado, this is episode 1 of The Grudge. I am back with Isabella Moody.
Yes.
I can't believe that you signed up for round 2.
I can't believe you missed me so much that you wanted me to come back on. I mean, come on.
All right, let's get into it. Do you know personally this Lily Gutus person?
I've seen her clips go viral on Twitter, and she also has a show on Compound Censored, Censor.tv, which I have as well. So that's pretty much it. I've DM'd her, but that's it.
Okay, so aside from the controversy that I've told my followers about with her before, I want to go through that, remind them of it, but then get to what I think is an absurdity of something you advocate and she advocates as well. And it plays into MAGA's just obsession with being the victims in their stories. So as a reminder, I think she was described as the N-word lady for some time, but she posted this video that caused the initial controversy.
Everybody I know who's married right now, they're married to broke ass and they don't care. We don't.
I remember covering this, yeah. Yeah, this was a white woman moment.
Give a about your money. I couldn't care less about your money, okay?
So on TikTok, that's against their terms of service. She was held accountable there for it, banned off of TikTok. And then she got fired because she was refusing, from my understanding, to apologize or walk back or anything. And she ended up posting this video and says why she doesn't have any remorse.
So a recent video of mine seems to have upset members of a certain community, and
She got her hair done for that video. That's crazy. Like, she got her hair done for the apology video. That is a fresh, right out of the salon hairdo right there. I can tell. Like nary an hour in the sun or a moment in the shower after coming out of the salon with that hair. She went to the salon, got her hair did, and then went home to record this TikTok. This is such a society moment, dude.
All the back.
She also might have just like dried it with curlers in or something, but it looks like she went to a place and got it done.
Backlash just really made me, just really do a deep dive, like do a soul search. And after all that, I still couldn't find a care.
You're going to call us racist. You're going to call us...
Is this hashtag based to you?
So true, especially Andrew Breitbart. Like what he says right here is great.
Okay, let's listen.
Potential Timothy McVeigh's... You. War.
So let me ask you this.
Well, and then you have this quote on screen. Let me read it. If the First Amendment is intended to protect anything, it's intended to protect offensive speech. If you're not going to offend anyone, you don't need protection. I guess we can get into it.
So this is literally just, should white people say the N-word regardless of how offensive it is? Is that okay? And she is going to defend. She is on the pro-white people saying the N-word position. This is actually a position that I'm curious if the left will lose ground on in the coming years. Because with Trump outright calling, like, many of his own voters, the people who ended up voting for him, trash, saying that they're, awful, they're rapists, they're murderers, they need to leave the country, all that stuff. Like, it's clear that, to an extent, the political correctness, and I mean to the extent that you just don't be overtly racist, is not necessarily a winning thing in America. And so we shouldn't just roll our eyes at this conversation, this discussion, this debate of, should white people say the N-word? Like, roll our eyes like, of course not. Because it's very likely we lose culturally on this point in the coming months / years. And the N-word starts getting said a lot more. It could happen. America's going to get a lot more racist in the coming years. It could get that bad, Werewolf Jester. And so that's why I think this is a conversation we probably should watch. Because why shouldn't white people say the N-word? We should be able to debate that on a factual basis. You gotta use facts, no feelings. It can't be like a position that you have, but you take for granted why you have it. We need to refine the arguments that lead us to that good position.
I have failed to explain to MAGA folks why I believe they shouldn't use the N-word. I don't know if we'll make progress on that, but I do want to get into, I agree with the quote here from Larry Flint, but y'all don't seem to understand it.
No, you don't agree with it, though.
Okay, you want to start there, or do you have anything to say on the controversy itself?
Yeah, no.
The response I would give is probably that saying slurs in the vast majority of cases, outside of, I would say, like, a few exceptions like music and literature, or a quote for the sake of communication, saying a slur, and particularly the N-word, is typically done for the sake of offense. You're doing it to harm people. Really no other reason than to harm people. It's just meant to evoke bad emotion. While freedom of speech is designed to protect speech that is unpopular, I don't think it was designed to protect speech that is hurtful. There's a big difference. The idea of unpopular speech is having positions or ideas or beliefs that are unpopular and espousing them and being prosecuted for it. Like if a racist goes out in the street and starts talking about skull shapes and how they think that affects the intelligence of black people, maybe they shouldn't be allowed to do it like on the street, but like they should be allowed to have the right to say those things and hold those opinions, because that's what the First Amendment protects. The discussion is, though, does the First Amendment protect the right to say things that do not communicate an idea, but are simply meant to be a targeted verbal attack against a group? Is that something that freedom of speech in spirit was meant to protect? Or is freedom of speech in the spirit supposed to protect one from social consequences of what they say? Is a whole extra question. Like, yeah, you can say the N-word as much as you like. You can even die on the hill of saying the N-word. but you are never going to escape the consequences socially of being the person who dies on the hill of saying the N-word. People won't forget that. There will be social repercussions. If you want to say fuck it, we ball, and say the N-word, you're also saying fuck it, we ball, and enduring the consequences of doing that, because freedom of speech does not protect you from those social consequences. And I would think any conservative would be hard-pressed to argue that it does, because at that point, you have to override the freedom of expression and speech of others to express their disagreement and derision towards someone for their speech. Not to mention, we could get down to the point of private platforms and what rights they should have, because they're not people, but they're also private corporations and entities that maybe should have rights over what's allowed in their platforms, because if we start to expand the government's control of what corporations and businesses can allow and can't allow, there's some scary things with that, but then there's also scary things with the reverse. There's a good conversation to have there, but I'm going to be real, she seems too bimbo-ish to have it.
No, what? You don't agree with that, though. That's offensive speech, and you have a problem with it.
What is
Dear
the First
MAGA
Amendment?
folk, we should not be using these certain words. Oh my gosh, it's so terrible.
What?
Okay, so I'm already noticing that her debate strategy is going to be to literally do little adorable straw men of the left and over expressive bits to try and distract the viewer from the actual line of logic in order to agree with her on some obvious common sense talking point, because most conservative ideas don't hold up to logical scrutiny, like when you think about them for too long. And so it is the prerogative of right-wing demagogues like this woman to get the audience to default back to their position with as little thought on the subject as possible. So it's her prerogative to interrupt and hammer in some pre-programmed dialogue that's been heard a million times before to remind the audience to turn off their brain and to remember, you don't take a thing the left says seriously. They're the enemy.
Do you think the First Amendment says?
Okay, I don't know the
No,
exact...
you don't have to do the exact quote, but what's the spirit of it?
I mean, First Amendment, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of association, freedom of the press. Is that all
Right,
First
no,
Amendment? Like what?
I'm trying to quiz you. I'm saying, of course, you're right to be an idiot. Lily Gutus is right to be this victim in her story because everyone's against her because she's using racial slurs.
You think she thinks she's a victim right now?
Of course, her whole thing is uncensored.
Yeah.
Is it? Mm-hmm. Barely.
I like this. Nail her home on this, that conservatives play the victim when people simply disagree and call them out for things that they've said.
I haven't ever seen her say, oh my gosh, I'm so censored. She just doubles down. If she really was so upset about it, maybe she would apologize. And that makes me want to ask you, why do you want her to apologize? What does that do for you? Because the left is always asking people, you better apologize. And
I honestly don't expect her to apologize. It's very clear she doesn't plan to. Most people that are calling her out are just leaving their insult and moving on. They're doing the same thing that she wants to do and saying a slur. She's just saying a mean thing that's meant to offend. It's what's designed to do. Its purpose is what a slur is designed for. It's meant to. It also has his history. It's meant to invoke, on top of just the meanness of using it. So they're insulting her. There's no actual meaning behind it. It's just meanness in response to her meanness. What do you expect? Slurs don't have any value as statements. They don't mean anything. They express, I guess, the racism of the person who said it. But frankly, I would prefer if racists would just say their racism in the most verbose and articulated way possible. Just explaining why they're racist, because that gives me a better understanding, if they're honest, of why they're wrong and how to correct them. When they play this game, or when they just try to default onto not taking anything seriously and just focusing on offending, you can't really have a conversation. There is no dialogue. I give her props for doing this podcast and at least be willing to have a dialogue with this guy, but man, she's already trying very hard not to have a honest, chill conversation. You can just tell from the body language and the tone of these two that Luke Beasley is just sitting here very much trying to get to the core of the disagreement and trying to have a real conversation, and she's trying to trigger him. She's actively, continuously casting the line and trying to get him to catch the bait and get triggered. She's not here to have an honest conversation. Every line is an attempt to catch him in a gotcha of some kind or to get him triggered.
walk back what you said. But whenever anyone does that, it doesn't matter. They still hate them.
I don't care about her at all and didn't know about her. But in seeing this story go viral, others seem to want her to apologize because, and this is an argument I do agree with, people shouldn't be using, or to put it better, because that'll confuse you, we should disagree, your word, not mine, we should disagree with people using racial slurs. Now, what's being discussed here? Oh my gosh.
She's not talking about black people. She's saying like broke guys. It's just a word. She's not literally being these broke black men. No, it's just brokies, like broke guys.
I don't have to explain to you the meaning and history of that word. I think you understand why people take issue with it.
Please mansplain it to me.
That's why you like...
Hey guys, you know how often I talk about the fact that like any conservative who's part of a minority group, women, if they're black, if they're a pundit, the reason that they got popular is because they're quick to use their identity as a shield. Mansplain it to me because I'm a woman and you're being sexist. Looks like the left are the real sexists. To be fair, there's tons of women that will do this in arguments, left and right. But yeah, very, very annoying. Very, very annoying. I do think there's a valuable conversation to be had, though, guys. Like, do you think it is immoral if a white guy and a black guy are really good friends? Like, they grew up together, like, really good friends. Like they did the blood brother thing when they were kids, where they cut their hand and they smear their blood together. They did that shit, and they're, like, past college. They're friends for life. And the black guy says to the white guy, you know what? You can say it. Around me, you can say it. If it's in a rap song, you can say it. You can say it with the soft A, and you can even say it with the hard ER. Obviously, don't call me that, but, you know, like, don't go crazy, but you can say, if would it be immoral in those contexts for the white guy to say it? I would actually argue no. There are circumstances where you could argue, well, you're normalizing the language in your parlance, and you could have a PewDiePie moment, and then you could have an even more PewDiePie moment where that normalizes it for a lot of people, and people defend the behavior in ways where it shouldn't be defended. It could be it's a slippery slope argument, but I think in this case, the slippery slope is a valuable thing to consider. But I'm actually curious how you guys feel about that, because I feel like most of the left would instantly default to no. Like, instantly. But why? Like, actually, I want you guys to think about it for a minute. Why? I've acknowledged, I think, the most secure like the best argument against it, which is the normalization and vocabulary thing, but in a vacuum, that situation, why would it be bad? For instance, I'm gonna confess to you guys. It might not surprise you. I've got a lot of LGBT friends behind the scenes. I don't know if I have any straight ones, and that's not by design or anything. It's just how the dice roll happened, I guess. I don't think I have very many, if any, 100% straight, cis straight friends, you know? And because of that, and I know many of you guys in the LGBT community do this and will proudly admit it, a lot of my LGBT friends are saying the F slur a lot. They're saying the F slur a fair amount. And I resisted for a while, but eventually so did I from time to time. And they're trying to convert you. They are trying to convert me, and they think if I say it enough, then I'll become gay. But it's not going to happen. I'll stay straight. Clip me. I'm fine with it. I would love to have people come on stream and debate me on this topic, because it would be a genuinely fun conversation. And we do need to filter the cucks anyway, the people who can't handle a logical, like a logic conversation like this. Yeah, I'm wondering, like, is this kind of thing immoral on its own? Like, is the left engaging in a worthwhile fight to be so high-strung over words like this, like, on their own, in contexts where they aren't hurting anyone? And in the context of that lady's first video, she's obviously, like, kind of a southern racist-y kind of lady, but in her original video, she was just saying broke and then soft A N-word, right? Like she was clearly saying it like how like generally you would see like a rapper or something say it, like this broke guy, right? So big L on her part, but also I don't actually think she meant to be racist there, even if she was. And so to that degree, it's like, I think there is a valuable conversation to be had about this. Like, do we need to police language this much? Like, isn't it kind of, like, seriously think about it. Isn't it kind of weird that certain words are like Voldemort in Harry Potter? Like, you say them and no matter the context, it's like, you can't say that. It's like, I remember when I was a kid, that would obviously be normal because you're not allowed to say fuck at school or in front of your parents or in front of adults because they'd be like, hey, you shouldn't swear like that. You get in trouble, right? It's like, oh, you said a bad word. But as adults, there's slurs. And it's like, it's the same thing. You know? And I'm just like... I think about it, and it's like, is this something that we take for granted? We just assume that is how we should argue. That is the position we should have. Maybe we should think about why. Because even if we're already right, knowing why lets us more effectively argue against the opposition on the issue. I want to be able to explain on a factual, non-emotional basis why saying a slur on its own in a vacuum causes harm and is a bad thing to do if you are a what is the philosophical worldview in which you try to maximize the best outcomes? Utilitarian. That is the best utilitarian like reason. I feel like everyone should be capable of making that argument.
Yeah.
That this is sort of why she went viral, because people are outraged, because there's a reason to be outraged. But here, we're talking about the government, as I told you in the other episode, not infringing on your free speech rights. And of course, you can have sort of the spirit of free speech. So platforms should do their best to protect people's freedom of speech. But all you're talking about in so many situations, and what sells this MAGA line of we're the free speech warriors when we're not, is that you don't think other people should use their free speech to take issue with you.
Yes, I do. We talked about this last time.
Exactly,
there's no problem.
Okay, then what's
you can
wrong with
criticize
this?
it. I love when people criticize the things I say. I think it's funny. That's why my posts go viral.
But again, we
Thank
just
you,
watched this video. Let's watch it again.
Okay.
So a recent video of mine seems to have upset members of a certain community, and all the backlash just really made me, just really do a deep dive, like do a soul search. And after all that...
What is she saying? The backlash is why she finds it relevant to say the First Amendment. What? The backlash is free speech represented.
I cannot believe that people actually hold this opinion. This is an entire new thought process regarding the First Amendment that I've ever heard in my entire life.
It's interesting how when they don't really say anything of substance and they just fill their drivel, their yapping with keywords that appeal to a broad demographic, it's so easy for them to defend what they've said with this like sanity washing shit. Like, she's clearly playing the victim over other people using their free speech to call out her behavior and what she said.
She's just kind of being like, hey, F you guys. I don't care what you guys have to say. Like, I'm doubling down. I don't really care. She's not saying, I cannot believe I have backlash. We should censor all this backlash speech against me. That's not what she's saying.
Not saying that.
No one has ever said you cannot criticize what we say. No one has ever said that ever.
When all of you cry about the left being for censorship, the majority of what you're talking about is people disagreeing with your speech, which is their speech, which is fine.
No, people, at least
people got mad at her, and now she's going, oh, they must be against free speech. That's why she's putting that quote.
Because they're mad that she said a word that today in society you can't say.
Hold on to that. You just exhibited the principle I'm talking about. You're saying,
please.
See? Do you understand?
No, I don't, because you're not making any sense.
The people debating, or the people arguing that what she said was wrong are not necessarily arguing she shouldn't be allowed to say it legally. They're arguing that she should not socially be encouraged to say it and should be socially incentivized to choose not to say it. They're not arguing against her freedom of speech. They're arguing against why she said what she said and why she wanted to say it. There was no basis to bring up the idea that these people were against freedom of speech, because for the most part, most people aren't. Like, no, the left at large is not anti-freedom of speech. Like, it's just not. Like, I'm sure there's the occasional freako. There always is. There's the occasional freak. But for the most part, most people on the left, when they call out something someone on the right said, they don't think that that person shouldn't have been legally allowed to say it. They just disagree and are calling it out. Because if you're on the left and you see a right-winger say something confidently wrong, it's like irresistible, the urge to try and correct them. And it's by design. They post their bait, they get the response that they want by doing that, and then they bitch about it, and then they pretend like they weren't bitching.
She's upset that people were upset at her, and then cites
she's not
the person
upset.
You're saying
she's
that the people,
joking. She's like, oh, I don't care if you guys are upset. I'm gonna still do what I'm gonna do. She's not upset. No one's crying.
You argued just like 5-10 seconds ago that people are against free speech. You said they are because they were mad at her. Do you remember saying that?
Yes, they're against free speech because they don't want her to say. The reason why she went viral is for saying
they're using their free speech.
She's not.
No, it is not anti-free speech to think someone shouldn't say something. That is not how that works. Being anti-free speech is being in favor of the government having the legal authority to control what you're allowed to say. Those are massively different, and the actual thing that the First Amendment protects you against. The government trying to control what you can and cannot say. Not people disagreeing and suggesting you ought not say a thing. That's not the same thing. Censorship and government censorship are not the same thing. Self-censorship. Hell, people like this don't even disagree with censorship. There are a lot of things that people believe should be censored in our society. And if you want examples, most of them are not fun to say, but there are some awful things that exist that our society agrees should be censored and suppressed. Like, we can have that conversation, but no one is suggesting that, like, when people say this person should be censored, even if someone says someone should be censored, they usually mean that, like, a platform should do it. And that's not the government. That is leagues different than the government doing that.
I'm mad at them for the backlash.
Oh my gosh,
they're mad at her for using the word.
This is mind-numbing.
I cannot believe there's people in this country that think this way.
No. This is crazy.
I feel like I'm talking to Joe Biden here.
You can tell she's not there to make any honest conversation. When she start getting racist. Wait, what? Wait, does she, like... Why is she touching him?
I mean, which Americans?
Yes, this is your argument.
That's a valid question. That's a valid question. I don't know specifically.
Yeah,
husband.
Josiah, you got
husband.
There's the FBI and the
FBI,
Catholic, the people who are reading their Bibles with the Catholic Church.
I promise the FBI didn't go after anyone for reading the Bible, but okay.
I forget, like, I don't remember that case.
Because it didn't happen.
Okay.
Or sometimes, I'll give your argument for you. Okay, ready? Move over. Luke, the DOJ went after parents for just voicing their opinion during COVID during school board meetings.
Such a good point, Luke.
No, they didn't.
They didn't?
Because what you're talking about is during that period of time, school board members were being violently threatened, which is who the DOJ released a memo talking about.
Okay.
Luke, dear.
He's going to keep doing this, and he's going to keep getting you on gotchas.
Dear, I'm helping. I'm making a better argument than she was making, Josiah.
Oh my God.
This is actually a pretty baller move to just start making the argument of your opponent better. That's actually funny as hell. No, when she get racist, though, I want to see the part where she gets, like, starts saying slurs. I want to see her say slurs! Please tell me it's time-stamped. They time-stamped it, right? Around the 20-minute mark. Okay. It's been too long since I heard a slur. I'm gonna die if I don't.
You're hating on my identity because I'm a MAGA, person.
I'm hating on your ideology.
Ideas. Oh, okay. So I knew exactly what he was going to say. Honestly, I was just thinking.
Guess wrong. But.
Yeah, I was in high school in 2016 when Trump won. Like, I don't know the online political sphere at that time. Mm-hmm. I was, I just wasn't on Twitter, Reddit, all these things. But I would say today, In my opinion, I feel like things are ramping up in the offensive joke arena.
And that's good to you.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Why not just actually stand for something? Do something, whatever. We already talked about that.
Yeah, I mean, you can literally tweet the N-word now. It's amazing.
Well, it's Schrodinger's asshole, right? It's the idea that, like, you can say the most offensive thing possible so the most radical and awful people, like, hear that and they agree with you. But then if anyone pushes back, you pretend like it was just a joke, so then the moderates think, oh, you were just being edgy. And then they also support you. So you get the hyper-radical crazies, and you get the moderates. And then when you get criticized for having the hyper-crazies, the moderates feel like they're being attacked, and they defend you and the crazies on their behalf, right? That's kind of the whole method that these people do.
Times are good. It's a word. Get over it. Stop being the victim on behalf of black people.
You're the one who does that.
You white liberal.
Why?
Malcolm X hated people like you.
Can platforms not have a term of service that says, hey, we're going to just say no slurs so that it's a welcoming environment for people?
They can, but let me tell you, when I posted that...
I'd be really curious to see if she would have said, like, what her argument would be when debating, like, a black person on this topic. I'd just be curious to see, like, how she'd argue it, you know? If she'd just be, like, straight up like she is here, she'd just fumble constantly.
That video, which I regret, of my baby babbling word, like, you know, she didn't even say it, but it kind of sounded like it. So that was not okay. But then I could have a bunch of people flooding. I just, like, kissed the mic by accident. I'm sorry. I had a bunch of people flooding the responses, largely black people, saying they were going to come and find and kill my baby. Like, we literally went to, like, a coffee place near...
Okay, maybe she would just be straight up about it. Come to think of it. Okay.
Our house, and he, like, I need to make sure my gun's on me just in case, because it was so bad that we were literally afraid that we were going to have someone, like, try to pull up and kill us. Is that
So
okay? Death threats are okay? But I can't say the N-word?
No, they shouldn't. What do you think I'm going to say? Yeah, that's okay, but don't say the N-word? No, of course not. See?
Okay. Death threats or N-word? Pick one, go.
Don't do either?
That's not an option.
Yeah, I made it an option.
We should, like, do, like, a smash, marry, kill game, but with all, like, racial slurs,
C.
and then you have to pick which one.
You're just swimming in a...
Now you're saying swimming, like, that's like a stereotype against black people, like they can't even swim. Like, you're really going to use that? You see how
It's just there's no, they don't care, to be honest, about it. It's just about triggering libs. And that's what the people cheer for. Because this is how the left got big, is because the right was, like, super stick up their ass and serious. And then the left would just goof around and fuck with them back in, like, the 2000s. And that's how, like, the dirtbag, edgy, sort of, like, counterculture left got big. And then the right started acting like this. And now it's like, well, yeah, especially when you have the actual correct position and you have to argue these things. Like, I don't even know how you respond to something like this, where, like, some of the biggest, most listened to pundits are spreading serious ideas, but they don't advocate for anything in a serious enough way that you can hold them to a real position, because they just irony post through everything.
Racist he is? Come on. This internalized racism is insane. What, now we're going to talk about watermelon and, like, grape soda?
All right, can we take a break?
At this point, Isabella's husband requested that we temporarily stop the show. Once they were ready to continue, this is where we picked up. This is after she said the N-word 500 times. She had to get that out, and then they were able to resume, because she'd gone 22 minutes and 25 seconds without saying a slur.
Because I know that your whole thing is trying to make liberals angry, I'm just going to say again, you're gross, and we'll go forward. Okay?
He's so triggered, guys. Pray for him.
Let's not forget that on...
Yeah. See? I think I nailed on the fucking head exactly what her game is. I think I figured it out pretty damn fast. Her whole thing is just throwing the line, trying to bait the libs to get triggered. No actual positions. And so many of them are like this, even the ones that pretend they're not, like Ben Shapiro and Matt Walsh. They pretend like they're making actual, like, positions. They even model their appearance and their sets to look super professional, so it seems like they're a real serious guy talking about real serious things, but they're always just talking about culture war stuff, and they're always just saying things and doing things in such a way meant to upset progressives, and then the most well-performing of their content is just them responding to upset progressives. The entire right-wing brand is centered around trying to trigger libs while making no actual arguments, but still somehow convincing people to your worldview through, I think, just the primarily the framing of the left as crazy and bad. Like, as long as they can get people to oppose the left, that's all that's necessary to get them people to side with them. And I think that's their method, is just nonstop straw manning and degradation of the left in order to radicalize people against it. The rest of the work does itself, I suppose. Anyway, guys, if you enjoyed this segment, if you found it entertaining, educational, or even enjoyable, then please consider hitting the like button, whether you're watching this live right now or after the fact when it goes out as its own video on YouTube. Comment down below as well, as likes and comments are the best way to boost my content in the algorithm and get my videos in front of a larger, new audience. And of course, subscribe and ring the bell icon if you haven't already, so that YouTube actually tells you when I go live or upload a new video, because if you don't, they won't. You can also follow my social medias, linked down below in the description if you haven't already, including my Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, fan Discord, all that good stuff. And of course, if you haven't already and you want to support me directly, financially, help me keep the lights on and a roof above my head here at the Xander Hall studio, then please consider donating, subscribing, or gifting us up on my website. xanderhall.com/live, or support me financially through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Streamelements, Patreon, or perhaps even buying merch through the Streamlabs link down below. But regardless of how you support my content or my channel, even if you're just a lurker, thank you so much for watching, and as always, have a good one.